right. Hey, everybody out there. Welcome to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun, and I am back on Star Wars Day. So, if you thought maybe I'd be talking about Rogue One because, I got the Mads Mikkelsen motif on, sadly, no. So, what is this? The May the 4th, 2024, my nephew's 21st birthday, by the way. I decided to do a Rob's Never Seen. And I didn't tell anybody about it. I didn't even really think about it. I was sitting around going, I want to do something. I got to get back in the saddle again. And because it's a muscle, you got to keep using it, and like doing videos for me anyway. And if I don't do it enough, I start to feel like, I don't know. But this isn't even like a really old movie. The last, we've been doing, I think the oldest one we did was or the most recent one was Rocky, and that's from the 70s. But everything else was like Humphrey Bogart. So the 30s, the 40s, 50s. This is 2010. I almost did Everything Everywhere All at Once, but it was 2 hours and 19 minutes long, and I went, maybe I can find something a little more casual. And then I remembered. I made this little list, and I keep forgetting about Valhalla Rising. Huge Mads Mikkelsen fan. I just met him last week at C2E2 2024, April 28th. 2024, I met him and Hugh Dancy. We got our picture together. I was dressed up. Well, look, I'll just put the picture here for a second and let you guys see what happened. But I'd been meaning to see this movie for a while. I've been meaning to go through the Mads Mikkelsen catalog of movies I haven't seen. And I just wanted to see if this, I wasn't even sure if this was going to pan out to anything I'd even be able to talk about or recommend. And this is the greatest, like, if people like negative videos, right? This would have been one of the best chances to see one of those from me, because if I haven't seen it, if I didn't like it, I'd be dumping all over it. But after this movie's like 14 years old, not old by any shape to me. I don't think movies made in 2010 are old. Yeah, it's over a decade old, but old to me is old. But I don't know. I grew up. I'm kind of stunted, like age wise. So I don't know. I think it's all relative to the person, right? But either way, yeah, this is kind of a newer one, and it's 93 minutes long. And I learned today that, yeah, you can damage even at, after all this time, right? If you just get used to watching things in like 45 to hour long increments or whatever you like, 20 to, let's call it 20 to an hour. After a while, yeah, it can play, against you in the long run if you try to sit still and watch a 93-minute movie. But not every 93-minute movie or 2 hour movie or whatever has to move slow. And this movie moved a little slow. That would be for 93 minutes long, I felt like it was forever, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that, and we'll get into it because it's kind of how they told the story. But I definitely recommend this movie. If you have not seen it, this is like just a couple of years before Hannibal. Well, yeah, just a few years before Hannibal. Like, who knows how, like, when production and everything gets started, and it's not too long after Casino Royale. And it's before Drive. So the first thing I guess I got to talk about is, if we're not going to get into spoilers yet or anything. So if you haven't seen this movie, I saw it on AMC Plus. I think it might even be free on YouTube. But this is what's great is as I'm recording this, I'm just like going to YouTube right now to see if I can find it. And yeah, I mean, I there is a trial you can get for all these things as usual. Let's see, Valhalla Rising, Valhalla Calling Me. Come on. There it is. Bam. You know what? It says try now. Okay, so you can get like you can watch this on YouTube with some kind of free trial. For maybe it's for YouTube Premium. I don't know, but there I found it on there. So you can watch it on YouTube for some kind of free trial, and you can get it on AMC Plus. And I have a feeling it's on at least one or two other maybe it's on Pluto or Crackle or something like that. I don't know. Any way you can watch it, it probably isn't even that expensive a DVD or Blu-ray. But I do recommend it. And the first thing I guess I'd be talking about is the writer, director Nicholas Winding Refn, whom like I don't like every single thing he's done, but I like the majority of what I've seen. And there's still some stuff I haven't seen. I've never seen any of the Pusher films, which I almost started watching recently. Recently. I think it's been a couple of years since I actually looked into it. But but I do like most of his stuff that I've seen. And what I like about him is I don't have to like everything that I've seen of his to at least give it up to what he's going for. He's always trying to do something that feels like I've never seen this kind of thing before. He gets crazy performances. Some of these, they all have kind of a challenge to the audience a little bit for me. I don't think they're always like, even Drive has elements that are like, that make you, I don't know. It's just not a standard action movie. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, Drive is probably the most Hollywood friendly of his films. But either way, you always are going to get something original. And I'll take original and not something I don't enjoy as that much over the same old thing I've seen over and over and over and over again just because it's safe. So I'll give him that. Plus, he's always got a great visual style, and it continues here. I gotta give it, like, I listen to this. I don't always listen to things all the way up in my headset, but I listen to this all the way up on all my settings. And oh my god, I gotta give it up to the sound design in this movie. Holy shit, man. The cracks and the breaks, like in the early on in the movie where these dudes are just beating the shit out of each other, and just how you can hear each thwap and crack and break and like just twist of tendon and stuff, like just flesh on flesh just hitting each other into the ground. Or the musical score by I love this, the music score by Peter. I got it right here, come on, find it. Peter and Peter Kayat. I love it. Their score to this movie is amazing. The cinematography in this movie is amazing. This movie is basically like a dreamlike nightmare. It's all visual storytelling, very minimal dialogue throughout the movie, which I really loved. It feels like a storyboarded, like I can just see the storyboards. It made me think of Samurai Jack and Primal. Just this odyssey that Mads Mikkelsen's character One Eye goes on. I mean, if you need a quick summary for the movie, I guess I would say that it's Mads Mikkelsen plays a man who is on a journey. I mean, it's called Valhalla Rising, right? So he's kind of a doomed man on a journey across that spans continents and oceans in a very short period of time. He's followed by a kid, and they kind of get like they end up with a crew of people for like a ship that are headed somewhere. And it does feel kind of like, if you look at it, like a lot of the Homer's The Odyssey and things like that, of people on a journey towards some greater purpose or whatever. And just how and where it ends up, though, is, interesting in of itself. Performances are wild, but again, not a lot of dialogue. And since this movie is very, very dreamlike and nightmare-like, the visual style is crazy. You can't always, like, this is one of those movies that like, there's a good amount of the audience is just going to be like, what was the point of this movie? Because if you're sitting there going, well, why don't they just do this, or why don't they go over there, or why don't they blah blah blah? It's like a fable. It's like a legend. It's like something, the way it's written in the page. It's like happening and not happening. You can't. It's following its own rules, which I like. It's not taking. It's not a Hollywood. It's not following Hollywood. There's tropes and cliches that you could say are in this, but the story is going where it's going, and I think that kind of certain tropes and cliches on these, since a million Journey Odyssey type films have been made and shows, you're gonna hit those same beats, but they hit great here. Um, and I haven't even man, what am I looking at? I've got over a page of notes sitting here that I always have um, these days. I'm trying to avoid spoilers as much as I can. The cast is really great. It's filled with people well, you've got Mads Mikkelsen, but there's also Gary Lewis. Yeah, Gary Lewis, who was Gangs of New York. He played a guy who says a lot of bad things in a church. If you know what I'm saying, that's that actor. He's in this. He plays like one of the Christians, and it's perfect. It took me a second. I was like, "Is that him? Is that him in this movie?" And it was. It also has, I believe his name is Jamie Sives, who played Jory Cassell in the first season of Game of Thrones. He was Ned's man before he, spoilers for Game of Thrones, takes one in the eye. If you know what I'm saying. I'm saying directly what happened. Takes one in the eye. He's in this as well. But I mean, and Mads is in this almost like kind of like Mad Max. Like he's in his own movies. It's kind of like he's not in his own movies. It's almost like, yeah, he's there and he does some stuff, but there's like all this other stuff happening around him. The world of Mad Max, is like more exciting than the main character, really. I mean, and not all the way through for anybody who's going to jump on the thing and say, no, my God, Mel Gibson is, but I don't like, if you know what I'm saying, like by the time you get to like George Miller's, Fury Road and the upcoming, prequel and Thunderdome too, like, there was just so much else going on besides and what people were doing besides what Max is doing. And it's the same here. There's these other people in the story that are going through their own thing. And him kind of as this, like, as it's written, I've read, like this kind of messianic figure that's leading these Christians to, well, I mean, to their doom ultimately, but in history, it's, well, they're, it's all happening. So it's 90, like, without any more, non-spoilery talk, it's a really great visual style movie. It touches on all kinds of themes as far as, imperialism, fascism, religion, like part of the story is kind of like always this endless war. There's a line in here that's like, endless war makes more tramps than heroes. And I just feel like it's kind of telling the story, like that's in a lot of stories, of just how we just constantly do the same shit over and over and over again. But it hits on a lot of stuff that kind of like hits me where I live, and things that I appreciate what a story is telling. When you have a character like One Eye, who is like this, he, as one character puts it, he's driven by hate. It's why he survives. It's why he never loses. So he's this brutal figure. So you know that they've got on the on a chain, like taking him place to place or whatever to fight or die and get bet on. But and how brutal he can be in this film. They kind of want him, like, from the other characters' perspectives. He's this, like, barbarian heathen, that's he's lived past his prime, and it's time for the white man, the white Christians, to move in. And how this character is basically more Christian than the Christians, because, like, we don't know why like, why he's chained up. They want us to, you could, like I said, from their perspective, he's this, but what do we know? He could just be some farmer who is now super fucking pissed off and killing people because he has no other choice to survive to get back to where he's going. We don't even know his full motivations. We don't know his backstory. We don't know shit. And I love it because we don't need it to know that, like, whatever else is going on around him is worse. These people are behaving worse. And what are they here? What do we hear throughout this film? Is, the constant talk of, like, okay, we're gonna have to start getting into like spoiler territory of, like, the actual plot of this movie. But, like, there is this thing about, like, well, we're going somewhere for God, but in the end, they always still end up talking about the wealth and the riches and the lands and the things we'll get for doing this, and what are the consequences when you don't get what you're fighting for your God for. That's part of this, and I want to save it now for the spoiler territory. So, like I said, if you haven't seen this, go out and see it and come back. I know there's going to be at least one person in my audience that has seen this movie, and I hope that this is giving you something that you have wanted me to talk about. So, and this will give you some things to put in the comment section. um, and you know who you are. And if you don't, I'll have to remind you in the Discord. But anyway, for the rest of this, it's going to be for anybody who has seen this movie, okay? Because we're just going to cover, like, my notes here on what I thought while I was watching it. So again, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit like and subscribe because we're like 20 minutes in and I haven't said it. But this is how it goes with me: is I talk like this. Okay, if you don't like how I'm talking, it's more of a discussion. It's more of a vibe. It's more of a, what I was thinking and where those thoughts led me to go while I was watching something, and how many times would I have to pause and rewind because I got into my own head while watching something and taking notes. So, let's see. All right. First thing I'll say, like, at the beginning of this movie, is, like, I love how it's separated into like different parts. And part one is called Wrath. But right off the bat, this was when I, like, noticed right away was I loved how this was filmed. I loved how minimal it was, but how beautiful it was, and how it felt like this is one of those you are there pictures. We realize you're watching a movie, but I really feel like I'm there in that time. And minimal is sometimes so great. People always want to put, like, these big, we got to make the big sprawling cities and stuff like that. But, like, back in these days, man, like, when we were just so much more spread out, and in that area of the world with the mists and there's a lot of mist in this film, but, like, mist and wind and highlands and hills and just the way people lived. Like, I mean, what? Oof. We are, for all the things that are wrong with the world, we are lucky to be living in the time that we are now. We really, 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 really are. But the vibe, right off the bat, the vibe for this movie, it had me. I loved just feeling like in this place. And when I immediately was pretty catching this is like a dream, this is like a legend, this is like a fable, some nightmare. it's a whole lot of things, and it's Willy Wonka's ride. Like you don't know where you're gonna end up, but there's probably gonna be some, headless chickens somewhere, and I'm here for it. Um, and this is where, like, you have him. He's beating the shit out of these guys, and I talked about the noise from the audio, but also like how these guys were, until it was like it gets really heinous. Like these guys aren't screaming out in pain; it's just like exhaustion and exertion. These people just they've been captured and now are basically just fight to the death in this village, fight to the death in that village, and you keep going and going. And this guy basically has built this reputation. He has only one eye. We don't know how he lost it. And all we know when we're dropped into this movie is he is a feared motherfucker and won't die. And everywhere they bring him, he just kills folks. And you just sit there and watch. And the fights in this are they're up at the beginning of the film. They're not throughout the entire movie. But boy, oh boy, man, there's some brutal shit happening. And it's Mads Mikkelsen taking people out and like, but he's tied to a rope on a pole, and it's all mud, and it's like I am a very I take my my fingernails and other shit like I'm always looking at like my toenails and shit. And I even thought just the other day, I was like, I think I'm gonna go get a pedicure someday. And I was just like, fuck it. I didn't even flinch. I didn't even like try to talk myself out of it after I said it. I was like, you know what? There's no shame in it, and you know what? I think I might like it. But anyway, that's what I was thinking when it's like you getting sloppy in the mud, and I'm like one of these people. But I loved it. I didn't want to be there. If I was there, I'd be watching from 100 yards away through binoculars to stay away from the dirt. But it was amazing. But this is where they start talking about basically this whole like it's time for the heathens, the Viking era to be out and in with God. Bye bye freedom. But this film, it made me think of it like when I looked at how it was shot and everything that they did in this film. It's very timeless. And I don't mean like people are going to consider like this, like when this is not going to be on like some top 100 of all time list. But when I say timeless, I mean it feels like it could have been shot at any time in our modern history of filmmaking, and not even modern history. I mean, like all history of filmmaking. Like I feel like this could have been one of the first films ever made. Like there's nothing in it. Even some of the visual styles with like the clouds and the changes of color, outside of not having color back then, like there was so much that they actually would have been able to pull off in an old ass 100-year-old movie. And now that it's like 2024, yeah, and even like before that, I could see this film in some form being made like pretty similarly, and wouldn't much have to be changed. And also, like I don't know, I'm about to make an admission, but I've seen like clips and stuff, and I look at Akira Kurosawa stuff, and just some of that visually reminded me of this. Which, yes, anybody who heard this, I have thought about doing Rob's Never Seen Anything, insert Akira Kurosawa film here. It's on the bucket list, folks, of things to talk about. But this is almost an entirely visual story with minimal dialogue. I really appreciated that. It had so much had to be conveyed through looks, through imagery. Very haunting. And again, that's going to be boring to some people, but if you're feeling the vibe, you're going to be in on it. If you're a little bit bored, and look, there were a couple of times where even I like checked out for a second. I still rewound it. I rewound this a whole lot to make sure I didn't miss a thing. The only problem with doing that is it's hard to maintain the immersion when you're doing that. Again, I got like a lot of Samurai Jack vibes from this for some reason. And The first line that had me, the first real line that had me, like boom, like was when I think it was like a Christian Viking or it's either he was either a pagan or a Christian Viking who says, he's talking about the Christians, and he's just like, the bastards, these people, these followers of the white Christ, bastards. Just and it's not like somebody could, you say that and they're just like, well, they just look at this proves the attacks and the hatred towards Christians, but it was the tone he used when he said it, and what the actual saying was accusing was just like, it wasn't just about their beliefs, it was about their behavior and their methods and their tactics. You could hear it in his tone. It's the kind of tone that you reserve for the worst of the worst when you say things like, the end. Wow. Not, the Sig Heil motherfuckers. I'm trying to get, around from saying that, that kind of attitude. And he's like, and I don't believe in any God, but like, I love it when they say, don't worry, though we have many gods, they just have the one. And again, there'd be people like, yeah, you only need one when he's the best. He also doesn't exist. Um, and there's the line that, like, we need money. Like, they're talking about the bets, they're talking about their way, there's them trying to survive in this world of like where they're being, just moved away, moved off. Like, think the elves in a fantasy movie where they're moving on, but they're not going to, the far lands. They're just going to get, their bodies dumped in an empty shallow grave on the side of a gravel road. Not even gravel, just, and maybe not even a road. But they talk about how they need money. It's like, we need money to reason with the Christians. And that just says so much. Please give me everything you got so I can build a massive church to his holy father. And it just, like, it makes, like, when you see this and you go back in time, you look back through the ages of time and you think all the things that we could have accomplished at such an early stage in history if we just said fuck all that and believed in us. But it was like a couple of things happened that like changed everything irreparably, which was like creating money so that for goods and services, right? So that, hey, everybody, nobody wants to do things for free. We don't want to do things as a collective. Like, somebody needs this, well, call Joe the shoe guy, and Joe the shoe guy gets you the shoes, and Joe has people that come and work for him to learn how to make shoes, so that they can take over someday or make shoes somewhere else for somebody else. And we all just do things for each other and blah, blah, blah. What a nice, naive sentiment. I know, everybody. How dare I? But like, and then you have like, well, basically, like religion, and two things that basically changed, that took away all of our real free will and gave our power up to the almighty dollar and the non-existent God. Both things are basically just things we've agreed upon that exist but don't. Both things that we've given matter to that don't really matter. And I know that's how, say how I sound how I sound. Okay, folks, I just do. But believe me, I'm saying this because if we believed in us instead of anything, we could just, if we want something to all, if we all just were like, hey, let's have help, like, let's just do this, we could actually do it. We sit here and go, oh, well, no, we got to let these other people tell us that. But we're so tribed up, it's impossible anyway, right? It's basically impossible. Like, it would take something so unbelievable to happen, shit that's from movies to happen, and even then I question, would it bring us together? And I don't know. I'm cynical on this one. Just do what you got to do, I guess, is the motto. Like, just get yours, because in the end, it's what these people talk about, as they talk about like what they're doing later on. Then there's a scene where he turns the tables and he kills all these dudes, and it's amazing. He just takes them all out. It comes down to one guy, and you don't know quite what happens. They cut away, and then you kind of cut back. He's looking at something, and it turns out he's looking at the last guy that was standing, and the guy he's going on about his Christian stuff, and you're gonna be, like, oh, your soul, and he takes the. I love that. Like, I think it's when he went underwater. They allowed him to bathe in fully clothed, and he goes underwater, and he finds an arrowhead, and I love the arrowhead because it comes up a couple of times in the movie. Like, I don't know, and how he uses like this primitive tool to, like, he guts this guy, like proper gut. Like, this is how, like, sorry folks, like, for the squeamish out there, and believe me, I'm not out there looking to see people's guts get ripped out, but if that is what is presented to me in a film, holy shit, this is how you rip a dude's guts out. Like, he is so angry, and his absolute disgust of this, over not just what the guy's saying, what he represents, everything. When he guts this guy and he just kind of pulls him out, I'm like, Hannibal Lecter, eat your fucking heart out. We got Hannibal, like, pulling out guts early, so he learned early from other movies. But it was just, I don't know. He was doing something. He wasn't just when he did this to this guy. It was like symbolic to me of just the absolute, like, disdain, like, that these people have for you. They, flip the script, and he's ripping his guts out, and it's just, I don't know. But again, he's driven by hate, and it's why he never loses, and why he survives. And that's just the first part. But that's, of course, is probably going to get my fullest attention, right? As the thing goes on, I start looking for more and more, and I don't find it all the time. But part 2 is called Silent Warrior. And we start seeing, like, him, like, images of his face against clouds, and I don't know. Again, symbolism here. I feel like, is he roaring against, like, his own gods? What is he roaring at? And, like, he's not roaring, but it's like his face is up against it. Like, it's and I guess, I'm one of those people, I guess, who's afraid to, like, get too far down some kind of metaphorical track where then I have to end up defending that, but in the comments section of actually what he's really trying to do. So if somebody actually knows, just put it there in the comments section. I take a drink of water here. But this is where it, like, really turns in, like, the dreamlike and nightmare quality that this film starts to have, where he started his odyssey, he's got his freedom, and he runs up on these people who, they're ready to fight him. Like, they want to fight him. Like, they don't know who he is. He's not talking. The kid kind of talks for him, but, like, more like the kid kind of is just reading his body language a little bit. There's like maybe an empathical thing. Again, like I said, this movie's not going to make some sense to some people. You just have to kind of go with the vibe and what it's doing, as far as, like, its storytelling, and it's, like I said, more like a fable, a dream, a legend. And some things you just got to take at face value. And they bring this guy up who's like the son of the guy, and he's coming up, and I just love how he gets up, and they all know who he is, but the guy's like, son, you're gonna be the one who fights and kills this guy and defends us all from whatever. And the guy gets up, and they just show him looking at Mads Mikkelsen's one eye, and it's just, you can see on his face that he's like, fuck this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to fight this guy, I don't want to die. All of a sudden he just realizes, my dad is going to send me to my death, this guy's going to fucking just do terrible things to me, and for what? And I just love it that he just, like, turns around and walks away past his dad, and his dad's just kind of standing there like, welp, I guess you can come and hang out with us and have dinner, because no one's going to fight you, everybody's too scared. So they just invite him in, because what else do they have? Nobody wants to die fighting him. It's just, I loved it. I love that scene. It's so great. It should almost be like a comedy scene, but it's not. It's more like a flex. And what a reputation this guy's got. We find out that these people are going off to reconquer the Holy Land for the Crusades, and I was like surprised that that's where this movie was headed in a way. And they're all talking about riches and land, and we're all going to get all this stuff. We're going off to fight for our God. And really, in the end, it's a land grab, it's a riches grab, it's a let's take whatever's not nailed down grab. And they've been doing it for centuries, and people still buy into it. And yeah, same old thing over and over and over. And that's where the endless war makes more tramps than heroes lie. But we also get several times of the situation being like, will he come back? Will this happen? Will this happen? If it's God's will, it will happen. Everything is God's will. If it is this. But if it's not, what do we call it? Well, in the third part called Men of God, where yes, they end up on a boat with these guys trying to get to the Holy Land. But immediately, I mean, these holy men are chasing wealth, right? And I'm not saying like, because when you really think of it, like again, once we created money, we've always chased wealth. As soon as there are ways to live better than someone else, to separate ourselves from having a harder life than we need or want, you know, it's always been this way, just in different forms and in undoubtedly worse conditions than we have now. But money still divided and separated people um, for centuries and centuries. And we've divided ourselves irreparably because of it. Until, like, at least in this country, where it's irreparably damaged until we can figure out a better system. But I mean, I don't. Again, what would it take? What would it take? The answers aren't things that a lot of my friends, people I know want to deal with, and some things I don't want to deal with too. Right? About it. But this one, he's talking about how Jesus died to free us from pain and misery, and I just laughed my ass off because it's like you're sitting on this boat. This guy, they're in pain and misery right now, and he's just sitting on a boat that's not going anywhere because there's no wind and they're stuck and dying out there and starting to go crazy. And this dude is like, and the guy just, I mean, if I was the other guy, I'd be laughing my ass off in his face. Because yeah, then as soon as like things don't start working out, if it's not about God's will, it's about curses. Who do we blame? Who on this ship can we blame for who's not the biggest believer? Who's the one who's the turncoat? Which one of us is the thing at fault instead of the whole fucking idea of going to fight for a holy land that's not yours, not as much as any land is anyone's, but you know what I'm saying. In these holy wars or any land grab or whatever, you invoke the name of God in it, and but in this case, they start to go, is the boy the reason that we're not going anywhere, that we're not making it to the Holy Land? Because at first they were like on land, they're like, well, I think the boy would be a good fortune for us, but now, it's the reason for their bad fortune. But when dude goes to kill the boy, he gets killed by Mads Mikkelsen really quickly. And it just, for some reason, I just popped, like Sling Blade popped into my head, like, you shouldn't have touched him, he was just a boy. And I don't know why. It's just like going for the kid, and that popped up in my head. But the other thing that popped up in my head is like, as soon as he killed that guy, everybody stands up on the boat, and I was just like, it's on! Click, click, boom! But once again, the one in charge is like, are you fucking crazy? I told you guys about this guy. He will fucking kill you all. And so we don't get the brutal boat massacre that I so desperately wanted. But again, it's it's not that kind of movie. Even from the like, you look at the cover and you can have the descriptions of all this, and there is brutality and there is violence, but it's not the whole story. Just like the movie, like say like Fight Club, you hear the title, you go, "Oh, it's a movie all about Fight Clubs." Nope, it's not. It's just part of it. Um, so we get to part four, the Holy Land. And I was like, oh my God, they made it to the Holy Land. Like, what? Now you're really getting into that dreamlike nightmare quality. Except they didn't make it to the Holy Land. They found either like Iceland or North America or whatever. Um, and they one of the first things they show them do is go across an Indian burial ground. So basically, they were fucked from the beginning. And it's in their defense, they didn't know. But it's like that line in like Lost season 2 or something, I think, where it's like when the smiling man's telling them in the jungle, like, when you go over to somebody's house, do you put your feet up on the table, or like it's basically you just came into the whole country is their house, and you just walked in the door and walked over somebody's grave, and it's just to them that kind of disrespect doesn't matter. It's like instant execution. So it's like being marked for death and not even being knowing you're being marked for death. Uh, so their Holy Land becomes immediately part five into hell. And of course, when they're in hell, the leader of the religious guys is like, well, I'm claiming this land for God. And this is where the film gets really, really just it made me think of the Thin Red Line with all the nature and visuals and just quick like edits to got kid walking in the mud, edit to guy laying in the mud, and guy kind of I don't even know if he was attacking him or Sodom, like taking him, you know what I'm saying? Uh, there was just all these like images, and then you have Mads making a cairn. And so when you have this character who everybody's like he's this brutal killer and he's making a cairn. Now the group of guys that they're with, they probably wouldn't even know what that means. Some of them. But like if this guy's such a murderous, at heart person, why would he be making a cairn? Well, I first learned about cairns from Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where um, you stack them as part of one of your many things that you do side quests in the game. But what I looked up is that a Karen is like a symbol of peace, meditation, calm, center, grounding. So this is not he didn't this is a person who has basically found peace now. This is like he got to where he needed. He crossed an ocean. He's found this place. Whatever it means to him, it means something to him. I don't know. They don't tell us. We are allowed to come to our own conclusions to what that might be. But to me, it kind of felt like he like accepts he's where he's meant to be. He sees a vision of his own death, which I wasn't quite sure what that meant when I saw it, but um, during all that, I just thought it was interesting that like he's I don't know, interpret as you will, but it was very powerful. And one of the guys that was on there, he went missing. Well, he clearly met the tribes, the people that live there, and they they probably scared the shit out of him, and they definitely dressed him up like them, and then kind of sent him off. Um, and basically, they all start to turn on each other. And there's another scene of brutality, and one of the religious guys played by Gary Lewis, the one who is basically telling everybody why they're doing this, and the Crusades is now like saying, "Well, I'm gonna go off with dude because he seems to be the only one who can survive this, and if I follow him, maybe I'll live." But they just turn on each other, and they get killed. They kill each other, or they get killed. Um, and it leads us to the final part, part six, sacrifice. Dude gets pumped up full of arrows, and you got this guy who's like, "This is my new Jerusalem," The other guy that's like, painted up, he just starts laughing, and I'm thinking to myself, though, yeah, you're laughing, but look at us now. We're still, that guy might have been the first, and it might not have worked, but they sent enough people here. They were sending people here. The religion was already in this country. Just came from the south. Then it came from the east. Well, all came from the east, but by way of south, like South America, Central America, all those people that moved up through Florida. And then you got the eastern, like northern eastern, like Great Britain, France, Spain, all of them hit the northern part of North America, and they're all bringing their religion, and changing the world. But he gets there to the shore. They finally find salt water. I like how they're like, they know things are good by the water. That they're all afraid to drink the water on that long journey that they're going crazy on. And when he finally starts drinking water, they're like, "Oh my God, we're saved!" But by finding safety, what they thought was safety by being able to drink the water, they just ended up in a place that didn't want them either. And so, like, where they came from, they're pushing people out, and these people are already saying, "You ain't coming here." So the freshwater really meant death in a way. So they, in their mission was to find salt water so he could build a boat and go back home. But like, again, did he really think he could? Maybe. But like I said, he had seen the vision of his death, and when they make it to saltwater, him and the kid, uh, he turns around and there's all these warriors there, and it's kind of fitting, that like he was the fearsome, brutal guy, and when he faces his end amongst these guys with all these clubs and shit, he just lets it happen. And there you could be in the audience going, well, they walk away and they leave the kid alone, and you could say, well, the kid's gonna die there without any help, and it's one, like, what's the point? Why not just kill, like? But it's not, again, one of those movies. There's a lot of symbolic stuff happening, a lot of metaphors, a lot of ways to look at this, a lot of ways to talk about it. It's a good movie to have a conversation about. And I'm going to leave that to the comment section now and let everybody else know. What did you think of this movie, all the themes and all that other stuff? Because I thought it was interesting. This is one of those movies that people should be having like hour-long conversations about online. That's the kind of content, at least I want to see. It's conversations about films like this and what it makes you think of. So anyway, that's the latest Rob's Never Seen. We got through it. I went, oh my God, 48 minutes into this. That's a long video. But I think it was worth it, and I'm glad I talked about it, and I hope you liked listening to it. And if you like to see more of this, again, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you on the next video. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for watching. Bye.